Welcome to the New Jersey Autism Think Tank video series for Autism Acceptance Month. Our mission is to explore the status of autism in 2025 with individuals who are living the autism experience in various ways. Today's episode features Maria Peters and Mary Beth Edmonds. I'm Mary Beth Edmonds, and I'm here because I have an adult son with autism. I'm a former administrator, and now I consult in education. And my colleague Maria Peters is going to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Maria Peters, and I'm here because I also have an 18-year-old son with autism, and I'm a special education teacher and also a former special ed administrator.
Okay, we're so pleased that Maria is able to join us tonight to talk about guardianship. So let's take a moment, listen to our experts, and learn a bit, shall we? So, hello, Maria. How are you?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad you were able to join me tonight for our video series. And I have been through the guardianship process in the state of New Jersey twice now, and I have some experience with it. We're not here to talk about legal advice. Please understand, there's no legal advice going on here tonight. However, you're going to hear what it feels like to be a parent of an adult child who is going to have a guardian take care of him or her for the rest of their lives. So I'll start for a few minutes. It was recommended to us by legal advice that my husband and I, have the guardianship put in place for my son when he turned 18. And the reason for that is because we, as his parents, would not be able to make medical or legal or educational, vocational decisions for him if we didn't have that in place. And so, obviously, my son, who was diagnosed with autism at age 4 and has been receiving special services since he was 3, and certainly unable to make decisions for himself, it was an absolute imperative. We had to have this piece of paperwork in hand. Now, it's a complicated process. It's possible to do it yourself. I understand some families undertake that process and they do it themselves and they go through filing all the applications and getting the paperwork, etc., for the surrogate county and for the judge, because you have to go before a judge.
Mhm.
But we were able to afford an attorney who took care of dotting all the I's and crossing the T's for us. So we did that early on with an attorney. We did have to appear in court. And the hard part was that I didn't understand, at least until I saw it in writing, that we had to have my son declared an incapacitated person. And that really, even as I speak about it right now, it's just so hard to hear. I mean, it was hard to hear that your child is autistic. That was hard. This just brought emotions back. And even at this moment, that according to the law and according to the state of New Jersey, he is an incapacitated person. That's the legal term. So we went through the steps. We have all the documents, and as a result, we make all of his medical, legal, vocational, educate every decision, because he really can't even make a decision, or we can't even rely on him to make a decision to cross a street safely. I mean, he might look both ways and say, I'm looking, but he might not make a good decision even about crossing a street. So, as I say, it's an imperative. The second time we went through guardianship was when we added my daughter when she turned 30 as a co-guardian. And this had been in the planning all along with our will and our paperwork. Should things happen to us, and who would take care of our son, we knew that when she turned 30, we would go through the formal steps of adding her as a co-guardian. And this way, should there be a tragedy of some kind or a loss, we know that the legal system is in place for him. And again, we hired attorneys, and fortunately, we were able to do that, taking care of all the paperwork. And again, we had to go before the judge. And the piece that was hard was that my daughter got very emotional, very emotional. The judge called her to his bench and said to her, "Why do you want to do this?" Floodgates. And it was just such a moment to hear her speak about her brother. It's hard to even think about it now. Um, But the judge certainly was convinced that she would make a good co-guardian and a careful person to take care of her brother moving forward. So, despite the fact that this is a legal document, it's going through the courts, and having a legal document, as a parent, as the mom, as the dad, as a sibling, these emotions come right to the surface. So it's not to be entered into lightly, but, and again, this is not legal advice. So just want to say, as parents of children with autism and adults, that this is another hurdle into the world as your young person starts to become an adult. So that's my lived experience. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague and friend Maria because she's going through this right at this moment.
I've had, I am going through it. So I wanted to do it before my son turned 18. There were a couple barriers in the way, and or a couple hurdles that we have to get over, some legal hurdles. I ended up hiring an attorney. I did try to do it on my own, and there were too many parts to it that I didn't understand. Even with all my background, I still didn't understand those parts.
Mhm.
And there's so many layers to what guardianship means. I didn't understand that part at first either. So he asked me questions like, do you want him to have the right to vote? Do you want him? There were so many layers to how much guardianship I'm taking, how much decisions, how many decisions he can make on his own. My son is considered non-speaking. He's 18. He can't verbally make a decision for himself. He doesn't always understand questions. So I am going to have to take complete guardianship. I was I went through all the possible questions and being able to give him some kind of rights, but there really wasn't anything I thought he could do on his own. And that's hard. It's so hard to make that and say, I need to make the decisions. I am doing guardianship by myself. And I was hoping that my older son, but he's only 20, 21 now, could also take guardianship. But what was explained to me is what happened with your daughter. They do like to wait until they're a little older, um, and make sure that he can make that decision for himself. The judge doesn't believe that when you're in your early 20s, you can really make that decision because that's a lifetime decision.
Yeah.
So we're going to wait till he's 30. So I will have to go through the process again. I was told that, and I'm hoping by then my daughter and him can both of their Austin siblings will be able to do something.
Do you have a daughter and a son who's
I have a
older?
daughter and a son. So my son with autism is the middle child. So his older brother and his younger sister, he's in the middle.
Mm.
And they've always thought that they would be his caregiver since the time they were little. I think we realized that that was what was going to happen. But being here at this juncture where he's now 18 and it's really happening is a completely different feeling than even when he was diagnosed at age 3. Um, and deciding to do it on my own. I think every parent, I'm sure you have this, is what happens when I'm not here. It's one of our greatest fears. It's been my greatest fear. And you put your will in place. Now you have your guardianship. You have trusts in place. There's so many layers that I couldn't do it on my own. So I'm blessed that I was able to get a lawyer.
Mhm. Mhm.
um, so our lawyer is dotting all the I's because I didn't realize how many T's and I's there were to do.
Mhm.
There's so many layers to what has to happen for Austin before I can even become his guardian. Right now, the school, obviously, he's in school and I'm still making all the decisions. No one has questioned any of that. His doctors haven't questioned anything, but he has been 18 for 4 months now. And I was worried that somebody would question things. I'm lucky they haven't.
Mm.
Could it happen? It could.
Mm.
So I'm hoping I get a court date soon and that my lawyer is also hopeful. There's just one more hurdle we have to get over. Mary Beth, it's just so many layers. And then SSI is a whole nother layer.
Right.
And so once they turn 18, there are just a couple of layers to get through. And no one wants you to fill anything out until they're 18, as far
Right.
as so you can't even do a lot of that ahead of time. I do wish I had started guardianship earlier because I did not realize how long the process was going to take in New Jersey.
Yeah, we got I think it took over a year with my son the first time, and that's with an attorney.
Mhm,
And the second time with my daughter, it took well over a year and a half, and we had to chase it. Is it done? What's the status?
mhm.
How much more waiting? We need to, she lives in New York and I can't just get her here in a moment's notice. We need to know. And so there was a bit of follow through,
Mhm,
put it in an objective manner. But I understand some people successfully do it themselves. So I don't
mhm.
want anybody to
Yeah.
think that we're promoting to get an attorney. That's the choice I made and my
Mhm.
husband
Good choice
made.
on me.
We were able to do it.
Mhm.
But there's hurdles. There's definitely hurdles, paperwork, proofs,
Yes.
and then that's connected to the SSI, which if you're developmentally disabled in New Jersey, you can apply for that. And you're right. It's mentioned, I think, in the transition plan when we have IEPs, we have a 16-year-old needs to have a transition plan put in place. It's mentioned, but the school district doesn't take a lead at all with that. That's all, in the parents' purview and responsibility. So, and you're right, I wasn't, the school district might have said something about it, but they didn't push anything.
Mhm.
They just, it's time for your IEP meeting, it's time for your annual review. What do you want to do about the data and program and so on? That just went through till 21.
Right.
That's
And
it.
I do know my last IEP meeting. So I asked very specific questions about SSI and DVR. And my son is not really a candidate for DVR, is what I was told, but they told me to apply anyway.
Okay.
Um, and of course I will. Um, there were just a couple other layers. So, but I think because I asked very specific questions, the case manager and our transition coordinator were able to answer some of my
Good.
questions.
Well, that's good.
Um, and they also did point me in the right direction. So they did help if I did not have a lawyer, if I wanted to do guardianship, they showed me where to find the papers online, where to get everything. So I
Mhm.
appreciated that.
Yes,
um,
everything's online. All you have to
you
do
know,
is
but
the
it's
keyword.
overwhelming.
Yeah. Mm.
And I do know parents that do it on their own. I just for me it's I'm in the process of using a lawyer to do it just
Mhm.
because there were so many layers for Austin that I was so nervous about. And there were parts I didn't know about at all. I did have to go see another doctor because he has to be declared. Yes. So we had the pediatrician, I guess, three different doctors. So I had to see a
Neurologist.
neurologist. So he was seeing a neurologist, but I had oh my gosh, I can't think of what it was. We just went in December, and that was the last doctor we were waiting for. It was actually up at a university hospital, but we needed that doctor because of his behaviors. Um, Oh my gosh, psychiatrist. I'm sorry. It was a special psychiatrist for adults with autism. So we went to see that psychiatrist, and that psychiatrist, it was more about his behaviors. Then we had a neurologist because he also has seizures. Then we had, and I thought maybe his dentist would be able to, because his dentist has done so much work and they really didn't accept it from the dentist. So it's just those little layers that you don't realize are in place to stop you from
Mhm, mhm.
just moving forward.
Yeah, yeah, the pediatrician is a big one.
Yes.
Because all the records,
Hmm.
every time you go for a well visit, every time you have a strep throat, all these pieces, for the IEP, for the classification, all the medical records had to go into the school district
Hmm.
also. So
Right.
I have big boxes, lots of big boxes. My son's 42 now, and lots of big boxes, important papers with exclamation points on them. Don't lose these because back, 34, 36 years ago, things weren't digitized. So, there's just this paper copy. Anyway,
I
it's
know.
it is tricky. So you don't have a court date yet, is what you're saying.
I don't have a court date yet. So as soon as his special needs trust is the next hurdle. So as soon as the special needs trust is in place, I can do a court date. In
Okay.
fact, our special needs trust is holding up my SSI.
Mm.
Um, Again, I would recommend if you do need to do a trust first to have that done well in advance. That was a mistake I made.
Well,
And we learn.
we learn, and it's
Mhm.
really there are no mis there's no mistakes really in my view. This is a journey, and it sounds as corny as it sounds, but when there's these twists and turns, you have to say, all right, now how do we get back on the path here? What needs to be corrected? Because it's really very complicated, and I can understand why. I mean, they just don't want anybody declaring person X or person Y, incapacitated person for no reason, and then take them over. I mean, that's really not possible. But the other thing too is, even though we make all his decisions for him, there are times when we'll sit down and we'll ask him,
Mhm.
"Do you want to? What do you think you'd like to do?" And he for a while he said he wanted to drive, and we had to tell him can't. I'm sorry. That's
I
something
know.
that you can't do. And he'll remind us, I can't drive. I'm not allowed to drive. And so, he learned that lesson. So every now and then there's something that comes up that we talk about whether or not he could have some input into a choice. It's really a choice, right? So some things he can choose, and that's okay. But when it comes to these serious matters, he's said on occasion he'd like to go to church. Okay, we could do that. That's something we could do. Um, when and where we go, how we get there, those are going to be our
Mhm.
our arrangements. But that will come up. So we figured let's just have everything, and then from time to time, if he could make a decision with us, we would do that. So,
Yeah.
well, Maria, you're on the journey, and
Yeah.
it's I'll be interested to hear when you get your court date,
Mhm.
and then maybe we can come back again for a few minutes and kind of tie a loose end together about how it goes. And do you think you might take your son or daughter with you to the
Yeah.
courthouse?
I think they will go with me just for them to, I want them to see the process. I want them to understand what I am taking on for their brother
Hmm, hmm.
and whether or not that is something that they need to do in the future. And I want it to be their choice. I know that they think that now, but they don't have a significant other right now. And they don't have, those are huge life decisions that it's very difficult to make at this point in their lives.
Yeah, we're
And-
we're very fortunate that well, my daughter was only 13
right.
when we were going through the guardianship the first time. She was very young. And since all of this, she has gotten married. And the good news is her husband is very supportive of our son and our family, and he understands and is very supportive. So, but you're right, there could be a situation, whether or not they have their own children, etc. Who knows what the future could bring? So you're right.
Mhm.
So,
His siblings are 21 and 16 right now.
okay, so
So,
you have a young person here.
yes.
So Maria, I want to say thank you so much for our conversation today, talking about guardianship. I think you've given us so much insight into what this process is and how it can unfold. And we're certainly looking forward to hearing more from you about the process and it autism parents need to have a lot of strength to keep going. So there were no mistakes,
Mm,
no mistakes. Maybe in tango, there might be a mistake in tango, but not in life, right? Al
right.
Pacino. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And
Thank
thank you,
you.
everyone from the New Jersey Autism Think Tank. And look for our next videos. We'll be coming to you soon. All right. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Good night now.